Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and today we're going to be talking about Paizo's newest board game, Elemental Stones. This beautiful box right here. Oh, has green on it. You'll see an image of it here shortly. The box art on this game is beautiful. It uses a lot of the primary colors, and it's very simple by design, but it's something that I personally like. So this is a pattern matching game using tiles on a game board, and it was invented by Jason Bowman and Joe Passini. Jason Bowman, if you're unaware, is the creator of Pathfinder, and Joe Passini is one of the lead developers of Pathfinder. So, what is the game? Like, what do you do? So, as I said before, it's a tile matching game where you have these colored tiles that look really nice, and they're made of a very nice, kind of dense plastic with these symbols. Very easy to read and very easy to see. You place them on this hex grid, and your objective is to make various patterns as shown on these pattern cards. The pattern cards are worth a certain number of points based on how intricate the design is, and also if they are predominated by a singular element, then it shares that element. Now, the game goes until a player has a certain number of pattern cards completed, and then the round finishes off and points are totaled, and the player with the most points win. But unlike other games of this kind of type, there are some unique things that Elemental Stones does differently from other kind of matching games. First of all, you have some unique criteria for how you approach the game. Each player draws an Elemental Sovereign card at the beginning, keeps it secret from the others, and the Elemental Sovereign card gives you points based on the number of completed pattern cards with your element by any player, not just you. So getting your elemental tiles out onto the board as much as possible is only beneficial. In addition, you also have these objective cards, and the objective cards requires you use your elemental tile to make certain patterns that then earn you more points. Now, there are a variety of sovereigns. There are currently 5 in the game total, plus there are the objective cards, and I don't know exactly, I think there's 10 different objective cards, and every game you play should feel different. Now, that's a basic rundown of the game and how it works, but this game is very heavily inspired by Pathfinder, and predominantly Pathfinder 2nd Edition, as it takes some of the core concepts of the game and setting and implements it into the rules. For instance, the first player has a set of 3 actions they do on their turn. They can draw new pattern cards to give them more options on how to set up the board. They can place tiles, placing tiles of a singular element as much as element as that player has, and they must be adjacent to one another. And the first tile you place must be adjacent to another tile on the board. You can actually discard a pattern card because, as you can see on the card here, there is a negative value. That is a penalty to your score at the end of the game if you end the game with that card unused in your hand. Claiming a pattern card is also an action, and one of the most unique actions is transmuting. So you can transmute an element in either your hand or on the board into another element. Now, if it's on the board, you can only transmute one element to another element, but if it's in your hand, you can take any number of tiles of a singular element and change them to another element. This allows you to shuffle your hand as you need it, and every round, each player gets 2 tiles from a set of, sets of pairs of tiles equal to the number of players plus 1. So there will always be extra tiles being added to the board to be used for transmutation purposes. And when you transmute, you have to follow the elemental cycle as shown on the board. As you can see here, fire, for instance, could be moved either backwards towards wood or forwards towards earth. You cannot transmute across like fire to water, And if you'll notice, there are also these air tokens, which count as wild cards. These air tokens can be used as any element, but when you use a pattern using an air token, you automatically transmute the token from the game board into the appropriate element, and only if that element is currently available on the elemental tracks on the side of the board. Now, this isn't a video to tell you all the intricacies of the game and details, but that's the general rundown. It's a strategy game, and I think more importantly, the game itself is a very high paced kind of player versus player matching game where you're trying to get the most amount of points. Now, each round lasts between 20 and 40 minutes, depending on the number of players. And honestly, contrary to what you might think, more players actually makes the game go by quicker, while less players means more stuff needs to happen on the board and more pattern cards need to be taken. So the more players you have, the quicker the rounds will feel like, and honestly, the less you feel like you're capable of actually doing in a game. While when it's one on one, you feel like you can do a lot more on the board and it's a lot more point intensive, as a lot more is going on and you just need more pattern cards to win. So I played this game first with my fiance and then with some friends. So I've gotten pretty much almost the whole spectrum of gameplay, whether it's 2 players, 4 players. I didn't do 3 players, but honestly, it's about the same as the 2 player experience. And here's what I have to say about the game. First of all, the game is beautiful. I mean, you can look at the box here, the art is very well designed. And as I said before, it's a very simple game. On a scale of 1 to 5 on difficulty, I would give it a 2 out of 5. Now, the box's rating is actually 13 plus. And I think that makes sense, mostly because the transmutation part is the most confusing part. And I will say, as someone who is a little bit dyslexic, sometimes matching the cards on the board is a little bit difficult because while you can rotate the card to match the elements, you can't flip it or change the orientation of it other than rotating it. So sometimes my brain mixes it up and it can be a little bit more difficult than normal, but still pretty manageable. Honestly, the game took about 10 minutes to learn, leaving the other 10 to 20 minutes for just playing the game. So this is a very easy and fun game to pick up. Now, talking about the quality of the game, this game has very nice pieces. You can see these plastic pieces here. They're actually pretty weighty. They're pretty dense and not made of a cheap plastic by any means. They feel good to the hand. And like I said before, the symbols on them does make this game somewhat colorblind friendly, as you don't need to necessarily see the colors. You just need to see the images on the tokens to know what each token is. So if you do suffer from like red-green color blindness or one of the many other variants, this game is still very possible for you to play. The cards are, on the other hand, are something I have a general gripe with. The cards don't really have a kind of waxy sheen or anything to them. They don't feel cheap necessarily, but the cards have a real problem of sticking together. And while I do think that this will go away with time as the cards become more worn, honestly, if they just had like laminated these cards a little bit, they probably would have been easier to shuffle, for instance. Shuffling in this game is an absolute nightmare when you pick up the game for the first time. It's rather unfortunate because I do like this game overall, but the cards really were frustrating to deal with. Now, the game board itself is pretty standard issue for board games nowadays, so I can't really say much. Honestly, it's a game that if you play it enough times, it's going to get worn with time. But honestly, this is not a game I feel like that's going to be an issue with. For me personally, I feel like the game is fun for 1 to 2 rounds. After that, I was starting to feel some fatigue after our second game on the game, and I honestly don't think I would enjoy it so much any more than 2 rounds. 1 to 2 rounds is perfect, and this is a nice game. It's a good icebreaker game. This is in a category of board games I call icebreakers, where you have like a date over, you want to play a game together just to, do something together. And it's a very fun and easy game to break out and explain and play 1 to 2 rounds while you chat or do whatever. It is competitive, and while that's not necessarily great for icebreakers, I still think that this is a pretty fun game, even if you have new friends, for instance, as well. Now, this is kind of the hard part of the review. First of all, I guess I should have said earlier, this will definitely be in the description, but Paizo did send me this version of the game as a review copy for the purpose of making this video. While they did send it to me, all the opinions here are my own. They don't have any say in what I said. They just gave it to me for me to review. So that out of the way, let's talk about the cost of the game. This is a $40 board game. And for the value, I would say for the board game itself, I think this is a little much. I think I would comfortably pay $20 for this particular board game. I think it's fun. I don't think you would play it a ton, and it's very simple. So you're not going to get too much out of it. I do think that it's fun to have on the board game, and plus, if you enjoy Pathfinder or Pathfinder Second Edition, you enjoy the world and the lore, this game is a very fun piece to add to your collection. Now, I will say, quality-wise, and probably why it's so expensive, I would say this is definitely a quality board game. Every piece feels really good. The art here is really good. And besides my gripe with the cards are very easy to read. And if they were slightly laminated, it probably would have made the board game more expensive. Board games are just difficult to make, and with inflation and everything like that, they have to get more expensive. It's just the way things are. I don't think $40 is an unfair price, and all my friends and my fiance said that they'd be willing to pay like $30 to $35 for this game. So that being the case, I would say in general, this is a game I'd probably wait for it to go on discount in your game store, to be honest. But if you want to support Paizo and everything they do, because they're a wonderful company and I think they got a lot to offer, then yeah, go ahead and pick up the board game. I think it's really good. I wouldn't pay $40 for it, honestly, as much as I like Paizo, but I could at least see myself at paying $30 for this game, though I'd be much more comfortable with $20. All in all, I would say, and as a pretty big consensus between me and everyone who played the game, we rate this game a 6 out of 10. It's fun, it's easy, it's simple, but it's far from our favorite board game, and it's a game that we would play only a handful of times a year at most. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I do love board games. I mean, I love tabletop in general, and board games are an aspect of it. I do want to look into more board games in the future, even though I don't have time to do so, as Paizo's releasing a bunch of books this year, and there's all kinds of tabletop news kind of happening this time of year, for this year. But in the future, I think I would like to try like reviewing more board games. Let me know what you all think down in the comments below. And hey, while you're down there, like the video if you like this kind of content, and subscribe to see all things tabletop. And as well, if you want to join our Discord, linked in the description, we're 250 members strong and growing. And anytime a video goes live on the channel, you'll get a message through Discord, which you can turn off if you don't want to see it. But anyway, like I said, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Lead the bad luck to me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.